The Morris Tribunal proceedings have been hilarious and bizarre to date, and recently, or I think today actually, the what's known as the Adrian McGlinchey module completed, and we're now going to bring you some of the highlights of that module. And really, some of this thing has been really quite unbelievable. Joe Taylor has joined me in the studio, and Joe has done some wonderful reenactments for us of these proceedings. But it really has been quite bizarre, Joe, hasn't it?
It has, and I think at one stage when Justice Freddie Morris said to Adrian McGlinchey, are you a Walter Mitty type character? I don't want to ask you this, but do you know what a Walter Mitty type character is? I think that sort of came to mind, all right. But I've heard you comment on this a number of times, Vincent, that there's been nobody from the public. There are very, very few people from the public, and there are at least 150 seats laid out for people. It's the most beautiful building of all the tribunals taking place at the moment. The Morris Tribunal is the one that would strike me most like a scene from a television. You know, they've flat screen, plasma screens set up for everybody to see if they can't see the people in the witness box. There's closed circuit television cameras on the people asking the questions and on the witnesses giving information, and sometimes it flashes to an overall view of what's taking place.
I wonder how they're keeping tapes of it.
I don't know.
They could sell them, I'm sure. Yeah, all right. Adrian McGlinchey, in her evidence initially, alleged that Detective Sergeant Noel McMahon had coerced her into pretending to be an IRA informant, and he was blackmailing her in the affair.
There are a number of Gardaí there who are quoted, and they will be giving evidence as giving statements to the effect that you were found, for example, in the grounds of the convent in Buncrana, and that in your wake they found 20 bullets. Do you understand what I'm saying to you?
Yes.
Other Gardaí will be saying they found her in possession of an angle grinder.
Yes, that's right.
I found her in possession of a homemade tripod.
A few, yes.
I found her in possession of one of those things over there. Do you see the rocket-like yoke sticking up?
The silver one?
Well, I don't know actually, but one of those things. They found you in possession of something. The description would seem to fit one of those three metal objects. Would you agree with that?
Without a... Yes.
Without a doubt, did you say?
Yes.
Other people describe yourself and Yvonne Devine running around a field and leaving behind a green coat. And they will find the green coat, and they find some bullets in the green coat, or cartridges in the green coat. Would you agree with that?
I don't remember that specific one, but I have to say, I'd agree with quite a lot.
Right. Other people say things like that. They looked in your flat and they found cartridges which matched the cartridges that were in the green coat that was left behind. Another man will say you gave him a sketch of the top of a tripod.
That I gave it to him?
Yes.
Sorry, I don't remember that one.
You don't remember that one. We can go through any of these incidents in detail as is necessary. Other people say that you would wait until the Garda car came close to whatever place you were walking in Letterkenny, and you would take off like a hare out of a trap, and the Gardaí would, of course, race after you, and maybe you were a bit fitter than them.
No.
You would lose them, and maybe they would find a bullet or a battery or something in your wake. Do you remember doing things like that?
Definitely.
How often would you do that? The hare out of the trap trick?
How often?
Yes, how often?
I couldn't put a specific... Well, I can definitely tell you all them things happened without a doubt, but I don't know why Noel McMahon told me to do it, but it was done.
But you were doing it on orders from Noel McMahon?
Yes, and I will put my hands up that I did it.
You are jumping in and out of the convent and leaving bullets behind you. You are carrying around angle grinders, tripods, apparent rockets. It takes an awful lot of time and energy.
Yes.
Why would you do all those things? And as you say, over a period of 3 years.
I'd like to explain that. First of all, when Noel McMahon asked me to tell Danny Kelly whatever he wanted me to tell him, and then when he wanted me to carry bags, and then he would tell me that Danny Kelly was suspicious or that I was a fraud and I was going to get done, Noel McMahon handed me a bag of bullets. Noel McMahon handed them to me, 200 bullets in a bag, and told me to walk into the convent in Buncrana and wait until him and Danny Kelly came in. They drove in, and I was to throw the bag down in front of Danny Kelly, and I did that. I was supposed to say to Danny Kelly I needed the bag back. Danny Kelly would not give it back to me. Noel McMahon owned the bullets, not me.
Were you mischievous at this time? Did you enjoy the fact that the Gardaí were running around after you, and that you were leaving them in your wake, and they were apparently investigating bullets, angle grinders, tripods, mortars? In fact, very, very crude imitations of mortars. Did you enjoy that fact?
I never really thought about it. I never thought it was funny. I can't sit here and tell you that there was not funny moments looking back, but I can tell you at the beginning of all this here, There was nothing funny about standing and carrying bags and in the rain and the gale and being stopped by guards and being arrested and being taken into a Garda station and being told by Noel McMahon to get arrested at certain times and spend the night in a cell. I don't think it was funny. But there is a lot of things that happened that you could consider were funny. But we could talk about the incident at the Crescent, and my bedroom was full of fertilizer. My bed is in the middle. I could come back from work one day and there could be 2 bags of fertilizer stuck into my bedroom to be ground. I didn't carry it in. I don't know who carried it in, and it would be ground. On one specific night, there was a bang on the door where a load of guards had arrived at the door, and I remember that night because we had a glass door. You went down the steps and it was Tom Shreenan. At that time, I believed that Tom Shreenan hated my guts, that he was out for me and he was going to get me, and that Noel Jones and every guard... Well, Noel McMahon told me all this and I believed it. Was I stupid to believe it? Looking back, probably. But I believed it. So, I go to the door, and he's banging on this door. Myself and Yvonne went down. Yvonne doesn't know my bedroom's full of fertilizer at this stage. But they bang on the door, and I pull the curtain back, and Tom Shreenan is there. Let us in. We said, have you got a warrant? Because I have this fear of Tom Shreenan. Do you understand what I mean? So, I go up to my bedroom. Yvonne is standing at the door, and I go to my bedroom. My bedroom window is looking out onto the backyard, and it's surrounded by guards. I don't see Noel McMahon or Kevin Lennon either in the company of them guards. I'm thinking, what's going on? My bedroom's full of fertilizer, and here is all the guards minus Noel McMahon. I go down, and he's banging on that door to get in. He's no warrant or nothing like that. I go into the bedroom, I get the fertilizer. I panicked. I have to say I did. I put it down the sink. I ran up to the bathroom. Yvonne was standing at the door. I went up to the bathroom and I flushed it down the bath. And I flushed it everywhere you can think of. And the more I put it down, the more it went up like a sauna. I did do that. What annoys me about this, when Tom Shreenan and them were at the door and all that was going on and they were all around the place, he was the one that made the joke out of it then. He was the one who said, I mean, I don't want to make this funny because it was not funny that night, and I don't want to make as if it was funny.
Yes?
But he was standing at that door, knocking on the door, going, little piggies, let us in. We're the guards and we need to get in. At that stage, I couldn't get the stuff down the bath or the sink, so I'm up in my bedroom and he's going, I'll huff and I'll puff. And I got up at that stage and I lifted a bag of fertilizer and threw it out the window, and I goes, and I'll blow it all over you. I knew at this stage they were not going to come in because they were at the door for so long, but they were making it, I mean, was it a laugh that night? How could it be a laugh when you're sitting with all this stuff and you do not see the guard that you know there? You don't know what's going on. And I did throw it out the window. I can't say it. Was there funny times? There was funny times. When I look back and I'm sitting up in Noel McMahon's house and the two of us are sitting in the sitting room and we're sitting with little coffee grinders grinding fertilizer, I'd be a liar if I said when I look back and think that that was not funny looking or just different things. When we went off in the van that night and they were unloading stuff, and then the next day you'd see it on the news. But I have to say, was it funny that time? It was the most terrible time in my life. I was threatened by them. I was afraid of them, and I did do all that happened, and I can't change it.
Leave funny out of the story. Why were you doing it?
Well, he was blackmailing me then in the middle of it then. He told me that I was going to get done. I would get sent to Limerick over the bullets and my fingerprints. Then it was the steel objects. Oh, that guard. But he was telling me to drop, say, like for instance, them things, to get lifted with them, and I would get lifted. Then he'd say to me, I'm stopping you getting prosecuted, even though he was the one that got me to drop them in the first place. I got the design from the Garda manual. I didn't know. They weren't even the right kind of ones. There were so many of them there. There was tripods, there was everything, there was, you know, why did it happen? I can't say, like.
Joe Taylor, this is surreal stuff, isn't it?
It is absolutely surreal, and more so had you seen the exhibits that were on display there of the rocket launchers, which I suppose to the uninitiated Vincent, they were about, we'll say, 2 foot high, and they looked reasonably okay until somebody brought up the fact that they were in fact Christmas tree holders of the type that you could buy in any hardware shop, except that these were homemade and as such they were welded together. But I mean, to describe them as rocket launchers, just didn't seem to me to unless the IRA were firing miniature rockets.
And she'd come in and sometimes there'd be 2 bags of fertilizers
Yes.
in her bedroom.
And this would be 800 weight bags, Vincent. This wouldn't be small bags that like the size of a bag of sugar. This would be a full-sized 800 weight bag. And they bought coffee grinders. I'm sure that the electrical supply shops up there in Buncrana and Letterkenny must have been delighted with people buying coffee grinders by the new time, because I don't think the mocha or the latte culture has caught on all that much. So they must have thought that the Frasers must be coming to Letterkenny to drink an awful lot of coffee, because these coffee grinders were going night and day.
Let's move on.
Could we move perhaps to the 12th of October of 1993, when there was this incident outside Miss McGlinchey's flat in Muncrana, where Detective Sergeant Shreenan says that there was an incident involving white powdery stuff being chucked out windows, down a roof, and faucets were going and flushing going on a material, apparently. The suggestion coming from that being this was white material, perhaps fertilizer, that he sought a warrant and was refused. Now, can you tell us what you did learn about the incident?
I approached Miss McGlinchey herself, and she said that D. Sergeant Shreenan started banging on the door, and that she panicked, and that she had some crushed stuff. She didn't specify whether it was a mix, even on questioning, but that she did flush and throw and wash down sinks in the bath, and that she didn't let them in. And there was some jibes through the door, as we heard. One little piggy went to the market or something. And at all times she said she was going to tell me she had this stuff there.
She told about the fact that Gardaí had come, that there had been banging on the door, that there had been reference to Miss Piggy and something about blowing her house or blowing her door in or something like that.
Yes, sir. But I wasn't aware of D. Sergeant Shreenan seeking a warrant. I didn't pursue the matter, as I didn't know even that there was a warrant being sought. I could not have interviewed and did not interfere.
Can you tell us this? When you heard about this, did it not occur to you that this is something that should not be happening with her in relation to my dealings with her? Here she is my informant, there's stuff going out the window, there's stuff going down the toilet, there are guards hammering on her door. This is not news that you wanted to hear.
No, most definitely. It seemed like a complete circus.
Yes.
Whatever about me personally, I can only put myself in that position. If I was trying to get rid of evidence, the last thing I would do is throw it out the window where it could be picked up for a sample and sent for analysis.
Yes.
That's up to the team that were there. I don't know why they didn't do that, but no, I didn't want to hear them antics.
Say to you, or can you tell us what happened?
There was nothing of relevance that I remember to report. She had a few drinks and I left her back in.
And was your wife present for that?
I don't think so on that occasion, sir.
And the second occasion then?
The second occasion, I didn't drink with her. She landed out sometime around after Christmas.
Yes.
And she had drink with her. And again, she went on about Culdaff.
She brought her own, basically. Is that what you were saying?
Yes.
So she came out. Did she arrange to come out or just arrive out unexpectedly?
No, she rang and said she was on her way out.
Yes.
She said she was prepared this time to go to Culdaff and tell us where it was. I contacted Detective Inspector Lennon on that occasion, and he arrived at the house and we talked to her. She got drunk very quick. I don't know if she had drank prior to coming out, but she arrived out with a drink. I never normally kept her about the house, Tia Maria.
Yes.
And vodka and coke. And so in the end, basically, we couldn't understand her.
You couldn't understand her?
No, sir, she got very drunk.
She had so much drink on board?
So, when she drank, she was a very fast drinker.
I see. And Inspector Lennon, was he there that night?
Yes, sir. He arrived after I rang him.
So he was there, you were there, was Mrs. McMahon there?
Yes, sir.
So how did the night... well, she got drunk. She wasn't drunk when she arrived.
No. I don't know if she had any drink on her, but she definitely wasn't drunk when she arrived.
I see. Did Mrs. McMahon talk to you about that? About the fact that she was there?
At a later stage or that night?
No, just then, and raise anything about it?
No, sir.
Or ask why she was there, or wonder what was going on?
No, sir. At that stage, my wife would have taken a number of messages from Miss McGlinchey from me in my absence.
Yes.
At Miss McGlinchey's request, and had a good idea that Miss McGlinchey was passing on information. It was common rumour around Buncrana that Miss McGlinchey was Pyra.
And how did the evening end? With Miss McGlinchey drunk, and what happened then?
The evening ended, sir, that it took the two of us to carry her out to my car, which was moved around the front, or had been at the front, but it was directly outside the front door. She got very sick in the porch. I remember that because I cleaned it up when I came back, and we left her to her flat.
Was she manhandled at all in the car? There was some suggestion of an incident of this kind where she was manhandled in the car.
Yes, sir, I'm aware of that. No, sir, she was not. She was treated... It took two of us to carry her, if you call that manhandling. I don't know if you've ever had the experience of trying to get a very drunk person to sit in the back seat. You do put your hand on their head. We've some training in that. No, sir, she was not manhandled.
Well, we won't spend very much more time on this, but essentially, as far as you're concerned, you put her in the car, and you might have used some, can we say, pressure?
No, sir. I couldn't describe it as pressure. It was a necessary lift.
I see. Into the back of the car.
Into the back of the car.
And yourself and Inspector Lennon did that?
Yes, sir.
And you didn't think it was an aggressive thing that might amount to an assault or anything of that nature?
No, sir. In no way whatsoever.
It's amazing. What do you make of that?
Rubbish, sir. It's amazing that so much this happens in our chicken, isn't it?
Oh, just that was done by Malcolm Douglas and Joe Taylor. For us, it really is. I mean, if the British did a sitcom or something like this,
Do you know, Vincent?
there'd be outrage
said
here.
that. Adrian McGlinchey said that when she gave the evidence herself. She said, if I read this, I wouldn't believe it.
You know,
Joe
it's a
Taylor,
pity. Flann O'Brien, Miles Nagopoly, wrote the book The Third Policeman. But if Flann was around today, that book, The Third Policeman, would be redundant because the reality has taken over from the surrealism of The Third Policeman, which I think came out shortly after the Second World War. But this is all of the De Selby stuff because there was a man called De Selby in The Third Policeman who invented a machine that, or the corporation noticed that there was millions of gallons of water going into his flat and not a drop coming out. Now, the same with the fertilizer. There was bags of fertilizer going into McGlinchey's flat and nothing coming out. But when it did come out, it came out down the roof and down the bath and down the sink and down the toilet.
But you missed the best punchline of all, in my opinion, because at the end of the day...
Gerard Cunningham.
Thanks, Vincent. Paul McDermott asked Noel McMahon how he felt after they'd made this huge find of 300 kilos of explosive in our chicken. He said they were very proud, they'd probably saved lives. And then McMahon drops the bombshell, and it was urea, which doesn't explode.
Oh, so it wasn't ammonium nitrate, it was urea.
No, it was urea. It's an animal feed, apparently.
Oh dear. So it was the wrong. It was fertilizer, but the wrong type of
The
fertilizer.
wrong fertilizer.
Oh, I see. So it hit the fan.
It really is. Are people, when you're down there, are you lying on the floor laughing for most of the time?
Sometimes. At this stage, you think you've heard it all. And then a day or two passes, and then another angle comes out, and you just find yourself staring at the screen going, I didn't really hear that, did I? It does get bizarre sometimes. It's a pity it's so out of the way, because it's the best free entertainment in town.
Of all the tribunals, I think the Morris Tribunal is the one most geared up for the 21st century. It's got all of these flat plasma screens all around the place, including in the press room and outside in the foyer, whatever. So you don't actually have to go. I go into the place where the tribunal is taking place to actually hear the words and to look all around rather than just looking at what's on the screen. But it's the most remarkably 21st century. It's like something that if you saw this in American television, you'd say, wow, you know, would we ever be able to do that? It looks fantastic, doesn't it?
It does. I mean, the press facilities, I have to say, are brilliant.
They are, yes. It's coming through in evidence. And it really beggars belief that here there was a number of Gardaí outside, one pretending to have a walkie-talkie. And
Oh, no, that was Mr. Logue. No, that was a neighbour.
Oh, sorry, a neighbour.
A neighbour who was, they thought he had a walkie-talkie, but he was actually just holding his hand up to his ear.
But she was inside throwing fertilizer out the window, and Gardaí was outside saying, Miss, what was it?
They were doing
Piggy, let us get married.
What's that?
Huffing and puffing.
Yeah.
Well,
Little piggy will blow the door down.
yeah, well, there was evidence before this. One of the senior superintendents, I think it was O'Connor, his nickname for Adrian McGlinchey was Miss Piggy. So obviously the knowledge of this nickname had spread throughout the force,
I think,
along with her informer status.
I think in all fairness, though, Noel McMahon did qualify that since she was an informant, that perhaps this was a code name that Inspector O'Connor was using to identify her, which if it was anybody else in the station looked at it, that they wouldn't be able to sort of say, well, that's who that is.
Well,
you know.
not very
And then
It was a code.
this prime informer arriving at her Garda contact's home, and she completely
Utterly
smashed.
rat arse.
She gets completely out of it. And they have to bring her home. She gets sick on the way out. It's fantastic, isn't it? It really is just
And it was
wonderful.
Tia Marie.
Oh.
You know when they're advertising Tia Maria, they always sort of put these hoardings up, which it really annoys me. But it's always at the time when the hour goes on the clock. They say, "Good news for the winter. Tia Maria, it gets darker an hour earlier this evening." So I wonder was that the Tia Maria was the